Hello, I'm Dango Rose. Welcome to the Mountaineer Podcast, where everybody's listening. The Mountaineer brings you the latest news of the Peak to Peak region, in print, online, through our podcast, social media, and special publications. Now, listen in to the latest news of the area with our local journalists.
The song that you are currently listening to is a combination of 3 jigs performed by the traditional Irish band, the Safehouse. The jigs transition between one and the next seamlessly. You're listening to the sunny hills of Beara right now, and this particular recording later transitions into I Ne'er Shall Ween Her and the Hawthorne Hedge. Be sure to check out the duo of Marty Smith and Skye Kelsey performing at Eldora very soon. More details later in the podcast. Hello there, everybody. My name is Jamie Lammers, and welcome to the first Music of the Mountains, Where to Be and What to See, brought to you by the Mountaineer Podcast in a long time that has actually aired successfully on a Friday. Hopefully that means I'm finally getting back on track with this podcast schedule. Before we get into today's interview, here are some quick preliminary announcements. First, if you haven't subscribed to The Mountaineer yet and you're looking for something new to subscribe to, then please head to the mtnear.com and click subscribe in the top right corner of our homepage. If you subscribe, you'll get full access to our digital archive as well as scanned copies of the physical newspaper. And you can choose to receive a physical subscription or send one to someone you love. If you're interested in advertising for the newspaper or the podcast, then be sure to head to the mtnear.com/advertise to learn what options are available. If you want to ask questions directly, then call 720-960-2900 or email marketing@themountaineer.com or adsales@themountaineer.com to learn more about the available options. And finally, I am thrilled to let you guys know that I am partnering with the Jamestown Mercantile located at 108 Main Street in Jamestown to bring you the first ever Mountain New Play Festival. If you're interested in being involved in the New Play Festival as an actor, writer, director, or stagehand, whatever you're interested in the New Play Festival, then please email Jamestown Mercantile Cafe at gmail.com to let us know what role you're interested in. If you're specifically interested in writing, then send us an abstract for a play round about 15 minutes by March 15th. All right, let's get into this week's Music of the Mountains. Our guest this week, do you mind introducing yourself real quick?
Yeah, my name is Skye Kelsey, founding member of the Safehouse, a traditional Irish music band in Colorado.
And I hear outside of the Safehouse, you'll be performing in a duo capacity at Eldora for St. Patrick's Day.
That's correct, yes. Myself and Marty Smith, an amazing bouzouki player, and we play traditional Irish music. That's perfect for any St. Patrick's Day celebration. You know, we've got a few gigs coming up throughout the weekend of St. Patrick's Day, and we can't wait to play specifically at Eldora. It's one of my favorite places in the world, so it should be a good time with the tap house there.
So am I correct in assuming that you and Marty are both members of the Safehouse?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, both of us, I'd say we're the 2 founding members of the Safehouse. And, you know, that's what we typically call our group of traditional Irish musicians and whoever can make it at the time the gig is happening. We play traditional music, so for us it's a cultural act and it's a very sacred pursuit. And, yeah, we all have day jobs as well. And, well, we do this because it's one of the last forms of music made by the people, for the people, and always presented to the people. So
how did the Safehouse start in the first place?
Yeah, well, Marty Smith lives in Colorado, near Colorado Springs. And myself, I've been in and out of Colorado since I was a kid. I ski raced professionally for a while, and naturally I was based out of Copper every year for the preseason while I was skiing with the U.S. ski team. And I've been around the state since I was about 13. And when I remember as a kid, my mom would drive me down to Boulder to play at the late Irish bar, Conor O'Neill's. At the time, you had the likes of Jesse Burns and Con Lindsay and members of the Murphy Beds and all these great musicians that would congregate, play the music, their music, mainly for themselves, but also for everyone else who happened to be listening. You know, this magical scene at Conor O'Neill's, and various sessions still exist across Denver and Fort Collins and Boulder, Colorado. To this day, the Boulder, Colorado session, Irish music session, moved from Conor O'Neill's to license number 1, and the Boulder Irish session is being hosted by myself and Deirdre Corrigan, a flute player from New York, and you can find us there every Wednesdays from 7 to 10:30 p.m. in the Comedy Room.
And can you talk about when you and Marty specifically started playing duo shows together?
Yeah, a few years ago, I actually lived my now wife, then girlfriend at the time. We stayed with Marty over COVID for a few months, and I think it was during that time, maybe 2020 time frame, that we really locked in our sound and developed a unique expression of ancient form of music. And since that time, we've been doing shows whenever we can and performing traditional Irish music for the people of Colorado, and hopefully sharing a bit of our culture and music with the state.
And with you, Sky, and Marty as individuals, how did you both get started in music in the first place and find yourself pursuing Irish music in particular?
Yeah, well, it's a bit mixed for both of us. Marty's originally from Wyoming, not a particularly vibrant town known for traditional music or Irish music particularly. And myself, I'm from Alaska, Anchorage or Girdwood, Alaska. I learned how to play Irish music in a small community up there that was largely supported by the presence of Clare music from County Clare in Ireland. And for some reason, the Kaylee Bandits, a famous band, Owen O'Neill, Mary Custody, and Quentin Cooper and Kevin Griffin, they being Clare natives, came up in the 90s and early 2000s to Alaska and brought a lot of County Clare music with them. By the time I was old enough to try to get into a bar and sit down with these adults and learn what I can, that music was well established in the community, and those are the tunes that I first learned, originating from County Clare. And from that introduction, I pursued the music as best as I could. I would compete in nationals, so to put it, for traditional Irish music on the fiddle, banjo, lute, whistle, and boron. And my mom would actually take me, before I was old enough to go on my own, out to St. Louis or Chicago, where they held the competitions, or FLAs, as they're called. And for the next couple of years, I performed really well and qualified, won the FLA multiple years in a row, about 7, I think, and made it to compete in Worlds only once, or twice, only twice. But that's my introduction to the music. And of course, over the years, I've had teachers. The biggest influence would be James Kelly, the master fiddler from Dublin. The Clare and Donegal style is what he plays and teaches to this day. And that's where I was first started. Now, at this point in my life, every summer I go back to Clare and Ennis particularly and play for months there as long as I can before I have to check the box off and head back home. But during my time in Ennis and County Clare every year, I play with the likes of Siobhan Peoples and John Kelly and Shawnee McGraw, Blackie O'Connell, and these great Irish musicians that are one of the last people around playing that style of music. And so since I was 18, I've been going to Ireland, every year in the summer and learning what I can from this tradition that is slowly fading from the world.
By the way, Sky has since collaborated with Owen O'Neill on his solo album In Session 2, which you can find by going to EOINONEILL insession.bandcamp.com. You can also find select albums from the Kaylee Bandits wherever you get your music. But in regards to your career as a whole, Sky, have you written your own tunes either in the style of traditional Irish music or in general, or do you primarily focus on playing traditional Irish music?
Yeah, we focus on traditional Irish music, right? I don't think we play a single tune that we actually wrote ourselves or a song that we actually wrote ourselves. The whole purpose and kind of the terminology behind the Safehouse is, for us, the music is almost a meditational practice. And when we play, we don't play for ourselves. We don't play for applause. We don't play to put on a show. Instead, we play for those who've come before us. We play for those who've passed, for those who have died. And the connection that we make in our music between those who once walked this earth and those who are currently walking it, that's probably the most powerful part of the music that we play. And so to make that connection and to give our reverence and solidarity to the tradition and the people that came before us, we naturally choose to play old music and old tunes. Some tunes that we play are are even thousands of years old and no one knows where they came from, but most of the tunes we play haven't been written down and are passed on orally from one player to another, and that's what we refer to as an oral tradition. And all oral traditions across the world, an oral tradition just refers to how information is processed, transferred, and kept in a pre-literate society.
And what's been the most rewarding aspect to you about playing traditional music and sharing it with people?
Yeah, so the most gratifying thing for me personally would be teaching the music, and I've taught at the Minnesota Irish Arts Center for their Irish Arts Week and various places across Ireland as well, or across, Spanish Peaks Irish Festival in our home state of Colorado. I believe that's on every year in August or September. I forget. I'm not in front of the computer. But for me, it's definitely teaching. I think for Marty and myself, it's a way of communicating with other individuals without the use of language, or the English language for that matter. And additionally, the use of an oral tradition is a very unique method of transferring knowledge, and this method is reliant upon the ability for each player and each person engaging in the music and the tradition to find what sports and music call, and even acting call, the flow state, the zone, the now, So, for example, in each of our performances, we don't necessarily have a pre-written set list. Instead, how we like to manage what we play is we like to find the moment together, find a shared zone, and on the fly, in the moment, play whatever comes to my head, play whatever comes to our heads. What tune we are playing next, we have no idea because we know hundreds, if not thousands of them. So for us to access those tunes, you can't just go on Google, or you can't just go on your phone and look up the exact name. Instead, you have to remember. And the best way to remember is, of course, to find that state of brain space, so to speak.
And what's been rewarding for you about playing traditional Irish music and sharing it with a crowd?
Yeah, in the past, it's for an artist, and especially one that teaches, it's usually economically beneficial to perform solo and to tour that way. However, for our music and the tradition, that's not how it works. To even play our music, it's almost necessary to have a social interaction with another person. And that kind of just highlights the communal aspect of the music, simply because it's not meant to be played alone. It's meant to be played with people. It's meant to be listened and enjoyed by people. It's meant to be experienced in any way you like to experience it. Have a chat, have a pint at the bar while you listen to the music, or sit up right close and stare directly into our eyes and experience the experience on your own. However you'd like it, but it's the music that's meant to be shared. So playing with people is always the goal.
In regards to playing solo, or playing in a duo like you are with Marty, or playing in a band lineup like you are with the Safehouse, do you have any preferences as to how many people you like to play with? Are there pros and cons to playing with multiple people or by yourself?
Yeah, for us to this day, I think it's shocking whenever we sit down at a venue and we are able to create this intense kind of space of intimacy with the audience and with, of course, the players, but especially the audience. I think with a lot of music today, music you'd find in bars, brew pubs, or coffee shops, there's a lot of pressure and expectation surrounding the performance aspect of it, right? So all of a sudden, you have a musician who's focusing on the presentation of their music, which in that case turns into a show. For us, it's not about the individual artist. It's not about me. It's not about Marty. It's not about whoever's on stage. It's about the greater tradition as a whole and the knowledge shared within that, within our people. And this perspective, it's a dying perspective in our society. And I think us having the ability to share an indigenous perspective with the world, it's the most important thing in my life. And I think Marty would agree if he were here.
And I assume that sharing this music with people is the most rewarding aspect to you about being able to perform live in general.
The biggest thing I hope for is the ability to see a very serious pursuit and a very serious show that is anchored in laughter and joy. And to experience, for us, the coolest thing that we see is audience members experiencing melancholy, sadness, even a sense of anxiety in a song, and processing it through sadness. Because at the end of each song, there's always the sadness and the melancholic aspects of the song. They're processed through happiness and joy. And I think it's a beautiful thing to process trauma collectively, to process trauma without the use of social perspectives or social pressure to feel a certain way. So if you go to one of our shows, I hope that you experience the melancholic happiness that is life, that is our music, that is the music of the Irish people.
And is there anything you hope that people will take away from your shows when they come to see you perform, or that people will take away from your sharing of Irish music?
Yeah, well, of course, it's St. Patrick's Day coming up, and our gig at Eldora Ski Resort at 1 of 4, we're playing in the Canyon Tavern on Saturday, the 15th, and we are playing at the Riverside on the 16th in Boulder. If you have any interest in coming out to those, that'd be great. We're also playing on the 18th at Trident Cafe, those who can't make any of the previous days. It's always a kid-friendly environment and family-friendly situation. A great opportunity to experience an ancient form of music.
And do you have any other efforts coming up in the Peak to Peak area specifically?
Yeah. I mean, I just wanted to mention we're looking to permanently kind of settle down in the area, and my goal is to eventually host an Irish music festival, or Scolasha is what it's called, a school in the mountains on the Front Range outside of Boulder, Gilpin County specifically. So I'd love to stay in touch about the development of that and how Irish music might find its way back to the mountains, because I know back before the Prohibition times, upon first settlers of the Western Front, they brought with them the fiddle, and they brought with them music that was created and fused by Irish immigrants, English immigrants, and of course West African immigrants, slaves that were brought over from West Africa, and who inherently brought the banjo to the Americas. So those combinations, and French music of course, those combinations of cultures created what we call today traditional old-time American music, and that music was created in the Adirondacks and the Catskills, and it was brought out to the Front Range with the first settlers. So to me, it's a bit of a beautiful historical connection to make as well. The fact that Irish music particularly played such a huge role in the creation of what we now call traditional old-time music, which moved with the help of Bill Monroe into a genre we now call bluegrass music. So bringing traditional Irish music back to the hills for me is a huge dream of mine.
Sky told me that the current visa regulations are making it much harder to be able to get Irish musicians from Ireland over to the United States. But he hopes in the very near future that Irish musicians are able to come over to the United States in this kind of festival in order to share their music and perspective with us here in the mountains. But that's for another time. In the meantime, thank you so much, Sky, for coming on board and joining us for the podcast. If you want to see Sky, Kelsey, and Marty Smith performing as a duo at Eldora Mountain Resort, primarily located at 2861 Eldora Ski Road in Nederland, then be sure to head over there on St. Patrick's Day, Monday, February 17th, 2025, starting at noon. To learn more about Sky, head to his website by going to skykelseymusic.com. You can also learn more about Marty by going to the websites for his groups. Averneen.com, that's AVOURNEEN.com, and Coisir.com, that's COISIR.com. And finally, you can find both of them on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Their Instagram pages are Soul Ski Rack, that's SOULSKIERAK, and at General's Chicken. Oh yeah, and since I forgot to write about this in the actual physical column, if you want to see them perform before their Eldora show, then you can head over to the Canyon Tavern, located at 32138 Highway 72 in Coal Creek Canyon on Saturday, February 15th, 2025, starting at 5 p.m. And now, for this week's Music Mentions. I believe I forgot to promote this show last time. So, if you still can, head over to Busey Brews, located at 70 East 1st Street in Nederland, this Sunday, March 9th, starting at 2 p.m. to see Zaya Stallings performing live. You can also head over there next Sunday, March 16th, starting at 2 p.m. to see Mitch Melodia performing live. As we just promoted in this episode, head to the Canyon Tavern, located at 32138 Highway 72 in Coal Creek Canyon on Saturday, February 15th, starting at 5 p.m. to see Sky, Kelsey, and Marty Smith performing together. And you can also see them performing at Eldora Mountain Resort on St. Patrick's Day, Monday, February 17th, starting at noon. Speaking of Eldora Mountain Resort, located primarily at 2861 Eldora Ski Road in Nederland, there are a ton of performances coming up there too. On Wednesday, March 12th, starting at noon, Windy Pines will be performing in Timbers Tap House, or, depending on the weather, on the West Wing deck. On Friday, March 14th, starting at noon, Ben Melius, the artist-in-residence, will be performing at Timbers Tap House. On Saturday, March 15th, starting at 9 a.m., Rizzy Rails will be performing in The Boombox. On Saturday, March 15th, starting at noon, Alicar will be performing in Timbers Tap House. On Sunday, March 16th, starting at 9 a.m., Eric Luba will be performing a DJ set in The Boombox. And on Sunday, March 16th, starting at noon, Con Moto will be performing in Timbers Tap House. Head to the Gold Hill General Store, located at 531 Main Street in Gold Hill on Saturday, March 15th, starting at 7 p.m. to see Minto Sparks performing live. Head to Howlin' Wind Brewing and Blending, located at 51A Main Street in Rollinsville on Saturday, March 15th, starting at 5 p.m. to see the Cortland Trio performing live. Head to the Jamestown Mercantile, located at 108 Main Street in Jamestown on Wednesday, March 12th, starting at 5 p.m. for an open mic night. Knotted Root Brewing is still hosting their regular music events. Head over to 250 North Caribou Street in Nederland to attend them yourself. Every Wednesday at 6 p.m. they host an open mic. Every Friday at 7:30 p.m., they host a DJ night. Every second Friday of the month at 7:30 p.m., they host a reggae DJ night. And every Sunday at 5 p.m., they host Jazz Sundays. And finally, pick your preference. If you want to head over to Gilpin County, then be sure to head over to the Very Nice Brewing Company location at 180 Jankowski Drive in Blackhawk on Saturday, March 15th, starting at 5 p.m. to see Eric Stone performing live. If you want to head over to Nederland, then be sure to check out the Very Nice Brewing Company location at 20 East Lakeview Drive, number 112 in the Caribou Village Shopping Center on Friday, March 14th, starting at 6 p.m. to see Blue Moose Jazz performing live. Did we miss you or any of your performances? Do you want to submit your music listing in the Peak to Peak area? Do you have updates to your business or to your performances? Please call 303-810-5409 or email info@themountaineer.com to be included in the next print edition or the next podcast of The Mountain Ear. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in for this week's episode of Music of the Mountains, Where to Be and What to See, brought to you by the Mountaineer Podcast. I'll be back very soon with a community-centered episode of the Mountaineer Podcast. In the meantime, if you want to share this episode or others around with whoever you see fit, then be sure to head to the mtnear.com and scroll near to the bottom, or check out our podcast's main hub at the mtnearpodcast.buzzsprout.com to see a full archive of all of our episodes. If you're interested in getting involved in the podcast in any way, shape, or form, then be sure to email me at media@themountaineer.com and we'll get something sorted for you. And finally, if you want to give general feedback on an individual episode of the podcast or the podcast as a whole, then head to an individual episode description of the podcast and send us a text. We'd love to hear from you and maybe even feature your text on the show. I'll see you guys next time for another episode of the Mountaineer Podcast. Have a great rest of your day.
Welcome all you lads of high renown, that would hear of a fair young maiden, and she's rode down on a summer's day to view all the soldiers parading. They march so bold and they look so gay, the colours flying and the bands that play. And Mary to herself to say, oh, where'd you be, gallant soldier?
The song that you are currently listening to is called Mary and the Soldier, and it's performed here by the Safehouse, a traditional Irish band. You can see two members of that band, Kelsey and Marty Smith, performing at Eldora Mountain Resort, located at 2861 Eldorski Road in Nederland, on St. Patrick's Day, Monday, February 17th, 2025, starting at noon. To learn more about Kelsey and his music efforts, be sure to head to his website at skykelseymusic.com. To learn more about Marty Smith and his musical efforts, be sure to head to avernine.com or coiser.com. And you can check them both out on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram at Soul Ski Rack and General's Chicken.
Mary, dear, your parents' love, I pray don't be unruly, but when we're in a foreign land, I believe we'll rule it surely. Perhaps in battle I might fall from a shot from an angry cannonball, and hold a good knife and can for Mary and her gallant soldier.
And that's it for our show. Subscribe online to get more access to more news, weekly updates to our community calendar, and a link to our YouTube channel by visiting themountaineer.com. Be sure to use the coupon code PODCAST when subscribing for a 10% discount, only available to our listeners. If you are in the local Peak to Peak area, be sure to pick up a print edition of The Mountaineer at a local business. I'm Dango Rose. Thank you for listening.